Welcome back to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here I am again talking about sports. Hey, let's talk about this guy to my left, to your right. Mr. Aaron Rodgers makes a appearance in Pittsburgh. And what are we thinking? He's signing for $13.5 million. It could go up to $19 million based on his production, based on how well he does and incentives. 1 year deal, 41-year-old, coming from a mediocre year from the Jets. Last year he had 368 completions, 584 attempts, 63% completion rating, 3,897 yards, an average of only 6.7 yards per throw, which is not great. I mean, you still got to get the ball over the first down every time. Well, not every time, but you got to get at least maybe 8-9 yards per pass, at least. 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. His longest one was 71 yards. He was sacked 40 times, folks. I was wondering how much longer can this man make it if he's going to get sacked 40 times. Remember, Russell Wilson was sacked 33 times, all right, folks, last year with the Steelers. Russell Wilson only had 2,482 yards, an average of 7.2 yards per pass. He was sacked 33 times, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So you're going from one old man to the next old man, and this is where the NFL is becoming a kind of a soap opera for old athletes who are trying to prove to the rest of the world that they can still play football. Is that possible to think that way? I can't imagine, all right? So the Steelers. This is what the Steelers did, folks. They traded George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys. They gave up a guy that had 59 receptions, 900 yards, 3 touchdowns, 15.3, and then they received in 2026 third round, in 2027 a fifth and sixth round. And they traded him because they said to themselves, well, we're going to get DK Metcalf 66 receptions. Remember, with the Seahawks, 992 yards, 5 touchdowns, 15 yards per reception. But you get an established wide receiver who could be on the way out in about 2-3 years, or you could have kept George Pickens, a very young player, and then still went after Aaron Rodgers. Now, is this really going to make a difference with Aaron Rodgers or Pickens or Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf? Probably not. Because if you don't have an offensive line to protect Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be the same situation. He may have around the same yards of passing, but is he going to get sacked as many times? I'm guessing he'll probably get sacked at least 30 times, 30 to 40. Because if you don't have an offensive line, your quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, along with Russell Wilson's big games, were running out of the pocket, feeling the pressure in the pocket, moving away from the pressure, taking on more time to find a receiver downfield. This is something that these two guys, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, don't have anymore. They don't have that instinct to run out there. They don't have the speed. They don't have the intuition. If they do have the intuition, it's more like, oh boy, here we go. Someone's behind me and I can't get away. And you got to remember, Aaron Rodgers, Achilles tendon, it's going to take over a year. So for him to have a 3,000 yard, almost 4,000 yard year last year is pretty good. But let's be honest. Let's just be real about this. This guy is just it's a Band-Aid is what it is. It's a Band-Aid for the Steelers. I think if I was a Steelers fan, I would be very, very upset because is it worth having an older quarterback who is on the way out, who's basically cashing out? That's all what he's doing. He's going to get signed for 13.5, and there's an incentive if they make the playoffs. If he throws so many yards, and it could go up to $19 million. Okay, which hypothetically is a lot to average people, but for football, it's not that much. Okay, if Aaron Rodgers played his numbers right financially, it was financially well off. Does that mean that he would have made or came back for an extra year of the NFL? That's the question you have to ask. Who's it benefiting? Is it benefiting Aaron Rodgers? Is it benefiting the Steelers? If it's benefiting Aaron Rodgers, it's because he needs to make more money to invest in whatever he wants to invest into. If it's an advantage for the Steelers, you think the Steelers think that because they have DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers, they'll make the Super Bowl. But they're not going to make the Super Bowl. And if they do make the Super Bowl, this guy is going to be so old and tired. Nobody gets slaughtered. It'd be like 41-13 or something, I mean, it could happen, but I just can't see how that could be the case. So you have to understand that if you're a Steelers fan, this is a Band-Aid. And this is what happens to franchise teams who are supposedly great in their past. The Steelers, the 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys. Those three teams I can think of right now. And when you have those three teams, what is the same common denominator is what? Is that they are mediocre, bad, and good teams at the same time. So what that means is that they make the playoffs just barely, or they just barely don't make the playoffs. The record is like 10-7 or 9-8, and they're just the borderline of making the playoffs. But the fan base fills in the seats. Okay, the fan base is there every time. They think it's that their year this year, and they lose a huge game at the end of the year, or they lose a really easy and dumb games in the beginning of the year, and then by the time they hit the playoffs rankings and the playoffs teams try and make the playoffs, they either have to win it or they have to hope that two other teams lose their last two games or whatever, or draw or whatever. So if you're a Steelers fan, I feel you paid, because this is almost worse than being a Detroit Lion fan that never made it to the Super Bowl, and then you have that mediocre team that doesn't go anywhere. I'm talking about the Barry Sanders era. Detroit Lions this era with making the playoffs. Can we get over the hump? That's the question they have to ask. And again, you get Frank Ragnar for Detroit Lions, who unexpectedly retired. But what I said before, if you have a player that does not want to play football, if you have a player that's hurt, or a player that doesn't really fit in the system no more because he doesn't want to play, you can't ask him to play him. And you shouldn't put him on the field. If the heart and the soul and the body isn't connected, you're just wasting your time. And one of the things I like about Frank Ragnar is this. I appreciate him telling Detroit Lions management, thanks but no thanks. My toe is done. My knee was done 4 years ago. I missed 13 games in 2021 or something like that. And he said, I can't do it. And I give him credit. I give him much more credit than I do give Barry Sanders for anything for quitting just before the season starts. So I think Frank Ragnar did the right thing. I think the Steelers, you guys, your fan base, I think is if I was a Steeler fan, I would rather not have Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather not have DK Metcalf. and I would rather just have a really bad season and trade all your players for draft picks. This is what the Steelers should have done. They should have done this about 2 or 3 years ago. They should have traded all their draft picks, all their players. Well, they should have traded all their decent players, even centers and defense line guys and all that, and started all over again. And if that means that you're not in the playoffs for 3 years, but then let's say the fifth year your Super Bowl uh, credentials are there. It is better to be like that than have a mediocre team like this. I'm just telling you the truth. I just don't understand. And I think Mike Tomlin's time for Steelerland is coming to the end. It has nothing to do with him being an older guy. It's just you need a change. You need a different scene. You need a different scenery. You need a different environment, different face, different spirits, different everything. Tomlin should coach again. Maybe not in the NFL because he's such a Steelers guy. If I was Tomlin, I would like, you know what? I think he'd be a great college football coach. I think he'll be able to keep his players in college. He'll not have to have a problem with the portal crap that's going on in college football. I think he'd be a great college coach in Division One. I think he'd be a great. I think if he goes to the Florida State, Miami, he goes to any team in the Big Ten, any team in the SEC. I think he'd be great. Think that's. I hope that Mike Tomlin's career doesn't end up like him losing 7 years in a row and not making the playoffs, and then finally they fire him. That's not the way to go out, especially for Mike Tomlin. I would consider Mike Tomlin just like, you know what? This was a lot of fun. The Steelers family brought me in, had faith in me for 17, 19 years, or how many years he stays. And it's like, I appreciate it. I think the curtains being closed. I think the new chapter in my life is coming in. I think that there's other teams out there that would like to consider me. I'd like to try a different environment. And I think that would be very helpful for the Steelers and very helpful for Mike Tomlin. And I hope Mike Tomlin sees this podcast or sees this episode or listens to this episode because I don't want him to go out as a mediocre coach because that's what he's become now. He's become that mediocre coach that you get your team to the playoffs, but your team's not that good. So I don't know if I was a Detroit Lion fan base in the era where we win a couple of Super Bowls, and then we have this mediocre football team. I don't know if I would like that or not. Because one thing that Detroit Lion fans can remember that the Steelers can't remember, fan base, is that Detroit Lions remember being losers all the time. The Steelers, they don't remember when the last time they were losers. It must have been in like 1971 or 1969 or 68 when they weren't good at all. I mean, that's probably the last time they were that bad every year in the late 60s. So, but I think it's going to be a new experience for the Steelers. I think that this guy Aaron Rodgers, he's not there to win the Super Bowl. He's not there. He's there to make his money. He's there to make his cash cow. He's there to be a semi-mentor personality. Uh, I think he's just trying to keep his relevance to the NFL as a player. He'll miss the guys. He'll miss the team atmosphere. He'll miss the gibberish among guys that BS each other in the locker room and during practice and during the games. And that's probably why he won't retire, because he'll miss that. But if he's not there to win Super Bowl, then I don't know what to tell you there, Steeler fans. So I hope for the best for you guys. I hope that Mike Tomlin can figure out that his career with the Steelers is probably over, and I hope that he finds a new a new home. I think he'll make an excellent college football coach. I think he'd be great. So peace, love. Follow me on uh, on YouTube. Follow me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm also on rss.com. I'm also on the Patreon. Peace, love, and I'm out of here, folks. Take care.